Hey Nate, you got a steel roof on there? Is that what that is? Are you still in that
Yeah,
building?
I'm actually in a shop.
Is
That's
it the
the
shop next to your
original.
house?
Yeah, and
Okay.
then it's just steel on the underside of the rafters, and then blowing in insulation, and then some cheap drywall to make a little spot out here. So I don't. When the kids were young, it was really nice because you could just get out of their hair. So,
Did you
but
end up
vice versa.
putting anything on the rest of it? Because I think I saw that piece of it was done years ago when I was out to your place, but then the rest of it was like just skeleton.
Yeah, it's just plywood, painted plywood now. It works okay.
Yeah.
Works
You don't do
good.
you don't do a lot of tea parties there or anything?
No,
Okay.
had a few, well, one graduation party so
Okay.
far, I
What
guess.
is it? What's the
It's
actual use
insulated,
for
so it doesn't get, yeah, it's insulated, so it doesn't get exceptionally hot or exceptionally cold, but it's heated but not air conditioned,
it? What's the
except for
primary use for it? Is it like a equipment shed or
now, just where I live, cars,
yeah.
all the farm
His wife
stuff.
doesn't let him in the house. Yeah.
Yeah, all the farm stuff is uh, actual where my farm is about 40 miles from where I live. So,
Okay, got it. And where are you at these days, Nate? It's been a long time since I've seen you.
uh, Woodruff, Nebraska, do a little cow calf and a little bit of entertainment farming, I would say. And then
Did you
work.
you like to go beat on a pivot every couple of years, or what do you mean?
Yeah, I don't actually I own a pivot, but I don't actually farm it. So dry land's a lot easier because you don't have to worry about breakdowns and
Hmm.
for me working off the farm, it's if you can't be there when it breaks down immediately, it makes it tough. So because we do surface water, so essentially once you order that water, they're sending it down the canal. So if you don't take it, you lose it.
Hmm.
So it's going against your allotment. And so you really don't want to have a pivot broke down when you're pumping a foot, which is, I don't know, 400 and probably close to 800 gallons a minute.
Oh, wow.
Well, it sounds like a lot of water, Nate.
Yeah.
This is like you're getting it down a channel where a guy, is there like a channel master and he pulls
Yeah,
the
so there's wells here. People pump like right here where I live, they have actual irrigation wells where they pump irrigation water out of the ground, and they're not very deep. Like right here, they can pump 1,200 gallons a minute at the pump probably hangs at 40 feet.
Hmm.
When you get out of the Platte Valley, you get up north, you can get a well there, but it's going to be much deeper. So you might be pumping water from 150 to 200 feet, which takes a lot of horsepower. I mean, maybe 100 electric horsepower, probably 100, 125 diesel power, yeah, two 180 to 200 probably, because you got to lift that water and then
Yeah.
pressurize it for the pivot.
Hmm.
But like on mine, it's surface water, so there's a lake, and then they turn it out into a canal, and then everyone has turnout. So like my farm is 17 miles from the dam and 1 mile off, 1.1 mile off. So yeah. So then you just have to I just have to pressurize that water. So I have a 25 horse electric motor. So obviously, there's pros and cons to it. So like well water, I don't get access to my surface water till like June 1st. So if you have a dry spring like we did, you can have some emergence issues, or say you wanted to plant a cover crop in the fall. I mean, we essentially get water from June 1st to September 15th, let's say. Memorial Day to Labor Day is
Hmm.
pretty good. So, but if you're like we pay energy cost, so like just to have access to the energy, you pay like a hookup charge, which is for unlimited, which means you can pump any day you want. It's probably 50 or $60 a horsepower. So if you have 100 horse well, you're paying $6,000 just to have it,
Yeah,
regardless if you run it. Then you pay the actual usage fee on top.
for the water.
Right.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, but the pivot breaks down or you got to fix something when the pivot's running. It's a lot nicer in surface water than it is your groundwater, because surface water is 70 degrees and groundwater is 40. So it's a little shocker.
Wow. Yeah.
So we should give an intro for Nate. So Nate's another ex-Cargill guy, as well as ex a handful of other places, but that's where Nate and I met, and Rodney would have met Nate originally as well. Uh, Nate taught me that if somebody's flying out to where you are, it's nice to go pick them up from the airport. I'm not kidding. Like it's so much nicer. Like if you're gonna go ride with somebody, it's really nice when they come get you, just because it's like it feels like they would want you there.
They were waiting for him.
And so I was early days at Cargill when I learned that lesson from Nate, but it's one of the, like I didn't really understand it until as I did other things. Nobody was at the airport for me. It's like they're like get a cab, we'll see it. Um, so
Well, there's
that's
not a lot of cabs in Nebraska, Gabe. There
part.
is
Yeah,
in the
that's part of it.
cities,
I
but
get a horse, whatever.
yeah.
I'd feel terrible if you came and picked me up at the airport in Boston, Gabe. Like
Well,
I would feel.
right. It is different here, but yeah. The other funny thing about Nate is every used to be about every 6 times I'd call Nate. Nate, what are you doing? Oh, I'm mending some fence. Like he said, he's got a better post hole digger now, so he doesn't spend as much time doing it. But that was, you know, it. There are a lot of things that I know about myself that like I don't want to be a farmer, but like Nate seems to like what he does. But I mean, the last thing I want to be doing is digging post holes and fixing fence. Um, anyway, so no Nate for a long time. Yeah, but oh, and Nate works for Simplot these days, right?
Yeah.
Simple.
Simplot. They sell
Simple.
fertilizer, Rodney.
Oh, that's right. Yep, that's right. Yeah.
Family owned, started in started actually as I think he started as a potato farmer, got him into fertilizer during World War I, I
Mm.
believe, because he couldn't get access to certain fertilizers they needed for potatoes. And maybe even got into livestock because some of the byproducts, uh, fed some of the byproducts like peels and stuff to hogs. So
Yeah.
They do a whole bunch of stuff now, don't they?
yeah,
You're on the input
yeah,
side.
ag and food company.
Yeah.
Retail fertilizer, right? Like,
Uh, yeah, well, uh, both manufacturer, distributor,
mm,
yeah, both fertilizers, and then obviously my job and my role is I do wholesale ag chem. So
yeah.
we're a distributor. So essentially all your main manufacturers, Bayer, BSF, Corteva, we distribute for those companies to ag retailers. So independent or co-op would call us and say, I need a pallet of Roundup, I need a pallet of dicamba, and we would deliver it to them, and then they sell it to farmers.
Nice. So you manage the relationships with the buyers at the
Yeah.
retail. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yep, ag retail. So the procurement person would call and yeah, decide what they need and then work with them on when they need it. A lot of the companies offer fill programs, so you just work through those fills and then in season, obviously, it's always needed it 3 hours ago type of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. And I imagine the distance you're covering out west is a little different than the distances we're covering here in Illinois, right?
Could be. Yeah, I mean, we run several warehouses, but I do most of my work out of one warehouse. So I would say in Nebraska, like host state, I mean, we can get it out of six or eight, obviously go to it's a lot about transportation. Most of my stuff tries to come out of one warehouse. Not always. I mean, we'll kind of share it back and forth and move it
Yeah.
around, even um, through the Midwest, because obviously they would spray earlier in the South, so then you could move whatever you didn't use there could be moved north as crops progress.
What'd you do on the fourth, Nate?
Uh, well, I actually on the day of the fourth, I kind of sat at a lake house, but I was tired because the night before the fourth, I baled hay till 5 in the morning. So,
Wow. I didn't know you could do
When
that. I
did
thought
you
it had to be
start?
100 degrees and dry to bale hay.
well, so with alfalfa, a lot of the protein comes in the leaf. And so if you bale it too dry, a lot of the leaves will blow off
Hmm.
and stay in the field. So if you're big around baling it, you you want to kind of bale it with a little dew on it to
Hmm.
hopefully keep the leaves inside the bale because you'll get better quality, higher protein quality hay. Grass is not that way. You can bale grass during the day, but
Yeah.
So you bailed till 5 a.m. and then took a nap at the lake house. Is that what you're?
no, I didn't. Well, I guess my wife would say that I took a nap.
I was gonna say, I bet there's some
Yeah.
pictures somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Uh, well, one other fun fact, but Nate's got 10 siblings.
no, I
Oh,
have
nine. There's 10 of you.
seven brothers and one sister,
All
but
right.
one farmer friend says I have seven brothers and my sister has eight brothers. So he tries to see if people catch on to it. So
Got it. It took me longer than it should have, for sure. Gabe, what was 4th of July like out in Boston? I imagine you guys party pretty hard on the 4th.
Boston itself does. We take so we got my wife's birthday is on the 4th, and my youngest birthday is on the 3rd. So
Mm,
those tend to be what take up a lot of time. My wife is always frustrated because nothing's open on the 4th, so we can't go out to lunch or something.
yeah, right.
But no, I mean, so Boston's got a big set of fireworks, but it depends year to year whether or not they do them in town here, and they did them this year. So we're close enough to where they do them where we can go out in the backyard and watch. Um,
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
pretty
We
chill.
were we were in Colorado Springs for the 4th this year. We just got back and it's funny, it felt different out there. We were asking people because we flew in on the 4th, so we didn't have a bunch of planning ahead of time. So we were at a restaurant, we're like, "Hey, where do you watch the fireworks or where's the fireworks?" And we were met all the time with like, I don't know, like maybe at the park or something." Like nobody knew, like there wasn't like a town festival or
Wasn't
anything
like a
like that.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, we went to this park and it was funny. There were fireworks everywhere, so 360 degrees all the way around. it was never clear to us which ones were like the sanctioned city fireworks and which ones were some guy in his backyard, but it was fun.
I mean, that's communism at its best, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
Everybody.
that's right.
I I learned. I learned. Oh man, this is borderline. Oh God, I'm a terrible dad. So, my wife got these candles for my youngest daughter that like sparkle a little bit. You know, you light them, they send out sparks.
Yeah.
And but didn't want to put them in the cake because they end up throwing shit all over the cake, and so didn't want to. So we took them outside and just stuck it in the ground because she wanted to see the kid wanted to see like what was going. You know, Lucy's like,
Yeah.
I have both her and my soon to be freshman were super excited to use the lighter to light these flipping candles. And I was like, what have I done that like this is a level like it because it was totally the element of like danger, right? Like that and it was I was like, man, I have not done enough to put
We're not our parents.
they haven't been exposed enough risk, I guess. Like this is just but on the flip side, they seem to enjoy it for a good 20 minutes, mess around with the lighter and the candles. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I
good
love
brain.
explaining to my kids the being raised in the 90s. It's just so foreign to them. They just don't understand. My 13-year-old the other day, actually we were doing the podcast, Gabe, and
Mhm.
my phone's blowing up. It's my 13-year-old. She wants to know if she can ride her bike a mile across town. And it's like, yeah, you can.
Leave me alone. Yeah, I get asked, can I go to the library? Like,
Exactly. The answer is always yes.
the answer's always yes to the library.
Yeah,
I
right.
don't know how many times to say. So,
So Nate,
uh,
what's this part of the year look like in your world for ag retail or I guess agriculture in general?
Really hectic. So like obviously all your complaints from pre-emerge to into post that didn't work, you're dealing with that. And then the transition from herbicides over to, your nutritionals for plant growth and fungicides. And so we'll switch now to aerial. And
Yeah.
so all that is like knocking on the door. So literally overnight, tassels started appearing. So the next 10 days, I mean, we'll run airplanes will run really hard. And then, we've had a huge influx of drones now.
Mm,
That are trying to figure out how that technology fits and what works and where they work and how that kind of fits in with helicopters and airplanes. Um, so, an airplane flies at, well, I just talked to one of my aerial guys yesterday, has a $1.8 million plane, and they can fly to the field at 180 mile an hour, and then I think they fly on at maybe like 120, 130 when they're
mm.
applying. So
And how's that compared to a drone?
I don't know how fast drones fly. I think the big thing with drones is just you're filling a lot more.
Yeah.
And then I think you have to replace batteries. So, but that technology's changing. And so you see both technologies, and there's pros and cons and of any and all. But at this point, it's like all hands on deck. When a farmer calls, they just want their field treated for the
Right.
most part.
Yeah, we haven't seen much for practical use of drones around here, I don't think. Like, I mean, they're at the Farm Progress Show every year, and there's always a circle of people looking at them. And I know guys are using them for scouting, probably, but I have yet to drive by a field where, it's like spraying fungicide on a field or anything like that.
Yeah. We have quite a few. I mean,
Mhm.
I've been doing this 3 years, and it's it's definitely the number of drones has picked up significantly. And like I have one customer, they fly 8 helicopters, so they can fly a lot of acres. Um, but they do have a relationship also with a drone applicator because they're located near actually Omaha or municipal. And so when you fly a helicopter over somebody's house, they
Mm,
generally call somebody and wonder what you're doing.
yeah.
So they use for those applications, they try to use a drone. It just scares people less.
Yeah.
And small fields, very applicable. So and when you have time, I mean, it's just, I think a drone, I don't know what the number is. For 200-300 acres a day, with an airplane, you could spray 200 acres in an hour probably or two.
Right.
So
There's
it's
a
all situational. So
there's a group out here that makes drones that are huge. Like they kind of fool them on to move them. They go on the back of a flatbread truck and like
yeah.
take up the whole truck. So they're huge.
A
So
lot of these guys have started using trailers, so they'll have multiple drones. So they always have a drone in flying while they're refilling and rebattering the next one. So, and it takes, usually they man them with two people. So one guy's flying while another one's getting ready, refilling, charging batteries, whatever.
I also heard like keeping the charging stations cool is a problem because they charging the battery so fast to so like putting stuff in coolers and stuff to keep
Yeah,
it.
it's been in 90-degree weather, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I can see that. So tassel shooting, no chance it's like 100 degrees out there in the next 10 days, Nate.
Uh,
Bean, Rodney.
I'm just asking.
it's yeah, I mean, we don't have excessive heat coming. It's, visibly, I think the obviously specific to our crop, we were deep, we triggered drought payments, in April, May. And it was I have a friend that's a plumber. I mean, it was as dry as we've seen it. And since kind of June 1st on, we've gotten rain uh every seems like 3-4 days. And we've had some like really un like unexpected rains, like, we're at a rain an inch all night, so the soil profile from May to July is, I mean, you could never have guessed that it would happen. So,
Didn't I talk to you one day last week and you said you had 6 inches the night before?
yeah, so we've had some big rains, but the crop, I mean, the crop looks good. I mean, there's some issues from dryness early, so there was some emergence issues. There was some herbicide issues because you didn't get enough rain to activate, which has caused some weed issues. But you know, it looks okay. I mean, it feels okay and looks okay. I mean, the big issue now, I think, is fear of disease, and you know, it used to be a plant disease might cost you 10 or 15 bushels. And we have diseases like tar spot now that in past have cost 40 to 70 bushels. So
Yeah.
they're much more impactful. Um, so it's hard, when you have corn prices sinking like they have. At the same time, you're thinking about spending more money.
Yeah, what's return on dryland corn out in your neck of the woods right now per acre?
I think if you asked a lot of people, they would laugh at that and say return.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
they would, most people would estimate that you're going to lose money, because they're going to use expected yields or maybe even slightly better.
Yeah.
And, the last few years we've had rain early and then dried out later. So we'll see. I mean, it's economically, it doesn't feel, no one's super excited about, I'm going to make a lot of money this year.
No. Makes it hard on the fungicide decision though, right? Like,
It does, but I mean, probably, yeah. I mean, the only thing that makes $4 corn feel worse is when you get 70 bushels less of $4 corn.
yeah, right.
So
Yeah.
it's tough.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
think we had enough people experience what some of these diseases can do that there's enough awareness, so you're seeing, more. So instead of people trying to find the right fungicide, the right time, you're seeing a lot more multiple applications. So we had a lot of fields last year, some fields that got 2 and 3 applications. So
like raising pumpkins.
yeah. So, but it's kind of a little bit the new norm. I mean, it's just yeah, we have more, it seems like more diseases.
Are
Maybe.
those spot applications or you're spraying the whole field?
No, they're treating the fields.
Yeah.
I mean, the soil see and spray thing is interesting, so that's the technology to just target weeds. But what I see out of it is people are using it to like re get better coverage on more densely populated weed areas, so they'll put an additional mix in to like beef up their herbicide program where weeds are more dense in the field.
Hmm.
I mean, the problem with weeds is if you let them go, it's not like, oh, okay, it's a bad year. Like, it's an issue that you're going to fight for 10 years, 15, whatever. It's ongoing. And it used to be, you would design a 10 or $20 herbicide program. I mean, those programs now are more, they've doubled, tripled in a lot of cases just because we got more resistance. And, I think too, we've learned that if we feed the crop more, these hybrids are, it seems like to me at least, and I'm not an expert, I'm not an agronomist, by the way, but, just as a farmer, they're a lot more finicky to where you got to kind of feed them
Hmm.
more often.
So Nate, I got a couple questions for you. So one, Ronnie, I want to point out, you asked him like what people would say profit breaker, and I'm not going to ask Nate what his is, but I'm going to ask this question, which I think will be fine. Nate, have you hedged anything for next year yet?
Yes, I have.
How much?
Corn, I'm sitting really good. Soybeans, we didn't have, I would say we didn't have the opportunity. Obviously, we had the opportunity to sell prices higher than today, but the issue we faced on soybeans relates to what we just talked about. I mean, we just talked about this increased disease and, so our like we used to be able to grow 90 bushel irrigated beans. We can't do that anymore, it seems like. And
Hmm.
I'm saying we can't do it. I mean, obviously we can, but it's much harder. Like you have to have a lot of things go right and timing. So anyway, when you're trying to take $10 beans, we have a big, I mean, everywhere has cost, but it was really hard to convince yourself that you could be profitable selling $10 cash beans. So when futures were at 11.50 or whatever, I mean, I sold some, but obviously didn't go crazy because it wasn't feeling like, oh, well, this is great, grow 70, but I can generate $700 an acre. I mean, that doesn't hasn't seemed like that was enough revenue to feel like I want to go sell the whole farm.
So I asked that question to point out Nate's one of the more disciplined marketers of his crop that I think I've seen. And what's
Yeah.
funny is there's a lot of folks over the years who worked at Cargill and had farms, and I don't think we're that disciplined at it. And Nate's always been, and so I didn't know how he had done for next year yet, but like I was pretty sure he'd probably taken some off the board.
Well, I'm glad you
Um,
asked me in a year like this, because the problem I have is when corn's $7 and $8. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm
That's
usually
right.
selling $5 corn or with some, hopefully it's five. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd sell $5 corn every year, at least right now in what I
you
know
know,
about the
you gotta
economics.
print out a picture of Nate now and put that under him. I'd sell $5 corn every year, and then you can do you could have a thing for your farmers, Rodney, and where they put their head in and with that figure out what their price
Like a
is.
tourist deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So where's that discipline come from, Nate? Like how are you disciplined like that?
Oh, I guess it's, for me, I think it's more that it helps me decide if I'm going to buy fertilizer and stuff. So when my tenant calls and asked if I want to buy fertilizer, if I don't have the hedges on, then I really don't know. Um, I'm just trying to essentially lock in a gross revenue somewhere where I feel like
Hmm.
it's going to keep me whole. It's probably never going to be a home run, but I look at it more as if I can get base runs every year, um, it's better for me than trying to hit a home run. I mean, now when corn's $8, it does not feel good because you're like, yeah, this I'm giving up. I try to stay away from looking at what I could have had because I've just learned that really hurts you because it's always easy. Just, I mean, somebody always gets a better deal, and I just find that it can like stress you out and drive you nuts looking at what could have had because the reality is it's after the fact it's like, yeah, decisions are much easier. But I think the reality is nobody ever has the ideal that we all look towards. They have some other deal, but nobody actually hits the ideal generally. I mean, one farmer I used to work with, who farmed for 40 some years, put a good perspective on it. He told me once that he's been farming for the perfect year for 43 years and he's still waiting. And then it really helps you like step back and say, yeah, like there's always stuff you would change, like obviously, but for me, it's just I want to be able to make decisions and feel like I kind of know. I'm not going to know the whole outcome because you never do. But if you can control a big chunk of it, then you just hope that you get lucky on some things that puts you over the top at times.
You mentioned gross revenue. Is that the number you kind of hang your hat on or
Yeah, for the most part, just because it's, I mean, out here, a lot changes. I mean, we have a hefty tax bill, real estate tax bill. And so, like I just got notified that per quarter of land, all my valuations went up significantly, like 50 to 100 grand a quarter, which it probably adds another 1,000 or 1,500 bucks a quarter in real estate taxes.
wow.
So, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces. And so for me, I'm looking for if I can keep gross revenue over 1,000 or towards 1,200, it just feels like things you're generating enough income to kind of spread it out. And like I say, then you just hope some other things happen, like, oh, this field did way above yield expectations or whatever. I got a little bit of a farm program payment for some disaster thing or something. So it's more just if I can generate that, I feel like I can keep going.
Have you sold anything for 2027 yet?
Not 27, 26. I mean, I always tell myself that when prices are really high, but the issue comes when prices are really high in the current year. There's usually a big discount to the next year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a lot of like what we're going through right now. I mean, because if you look back, selling 25 was really hard for people because you were selling at a discount. I mean, I was selling, 470 futures when cash corn was 470. So it's hard to it that is really hard to do. Like you kind of feel like a bonehead a little bit because you're like, well, how dumb is this? But
But you did it anyway.
I did it anyway. So it tells you how smart I am. So I mean,
So
you just,
so
like I
when
say,
did you start?
generate.
So for 2026 sales that you've made, when did you start thinking about those?
Well, I can tell you, 2 years probably.
Okay. So I'm gonna say what I hear Nate saying, which is if in summary, Nate, what I heard you say was if I can make a sale and it's hitting what I think the right gross revenue is, that's a good sale. I might feel dumb if the market goes up, but it's a good sale is always a good sale, and like that's it, right? Like that's what it comes
Yeah.
down to. And I think you didn't talk about this, but I think you've learned over the years. I also don't ever see you sell everything at once, right? So if $8 was there, I don't think you'd sell 100% of it at $8, right? You still piecemeal in, and I think one of the big differences is you start that work really early, like as you've demonstrated, like you're slowly pricing your way into 2026 stuff as those opportunities arise, and but at the same time, so it doesn't mean you're removing all the risk and you're not making perfect decisions, but you're making ones that help you sleep probably a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, like if I look back at my history of sales, which I'm looking at, I mean, I don't have I don't have farm averages that are like $6 and $7 even, but I try to I'm consistently trying to hit, 4 to 550, I'd say, so like my first sale for 25 was in November of 23, and then I sold some in February and some in March and some in May, and then I didn't sell any more until here in January of 25, but and it was tough because like I said, I was selling, 460 and 480 December futures at the time when cash corn was above that. So
Yeah, $5, right? You're,
yeah, not
that was
easy to do. And like I say, it's very hard to stay, but you just got to tell yourself that, you're you're protecting income, gross revenue, I guess.
yeah.
And I
So
mean,
how do you
and I do look at where, I guess then I can piece in my decisions like, should I buy nitrogen? Should I mean, at least some of the stuff you can control um, is helpful. And the other thing that's helpful is I work off the farm. So I don't, I mean, it is obviously different when yeah, when it's everything. But I think it's also like, at least what I've seen and what's hard is, generally businesses grow. And what's hard for people is they're used to selling 5,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 or 100,000 bushels. As their business grows, they need to incrementally look at making those incremental sales increasing, like if I started farming 1,000, now I farmed 2,000 and I sold 20,000, I should sell 40,000. But that's hard because it's like you in and unintentionally, we all get in this situation and it like I always look at my spreadsheet because I used to do that too. I'd sell like 1,000 bushel. Well, then I kept just selling 1,000 bushel at a time, and I thought, well,
Oh,
okay, I should be selling 5,000 because I have more product to sell. So to keep on, well, as you grow, you just need to look at making bigger or the same incremental sale. So if that was
right.
a 10% or 15% sale, make sure your bushels line up to that.
Man, that's so relevant today, Nate. I appreciate you bringing it up. I was just talking to a guy a couple weeks ago. We were thinking about making a sale, and nobody liked the sale, right? It was just like the market was up, and we felt like we had to take some risk off the table. And he was like, "Well, how much you recommend?" And I told him, and he was like, "Dude, that used to be my whole crop, right?" Like he
Right.
remembers not too long ago that was like his whole year. And it's like, man, things have changed, right? You gotta upgrade that a little bit. So yeah, I can't imagine how difficult
Well,
that
yeah,
is.
like I tell myself I don't feel like I'm old, but even since I've been doing this, you look at when I started, the average crop in the US was 140, I mean, so it's went up 40 bushels or 50 bushels, so it's even if you're not growing acres, you hope you're increasing yields with
Yeah,
technology. And I mean, obviously the investment we've made into some of the equipment stuff, I mean, we're growing better crops. I mean, we always get better. I know sometimes it doesn't feel that way as a farmer because you're like, oh, he's,
yeah,
but we are. I mean, we're getting more consistent and technology helps, and it's hard, for me because I'll look at a decision and it's like, okay, I want to know that it did more, but a lot of times I start asking myself, like, am I at least protecting what I have? Because I mean, why I'm not gonna pick on anyone, but this I could pick on fungicides. Like one thing about fungicide is like, is it gonna do better every year? I don't know that, but I can tell you that if you ever had to pick corn one direction because it fell over, I don't care what fungicide costs. It's like I never want to do that again. And and we do that right up until like we don't have that issue for a long time, and then it's like, okay, well, I don't need to worry about it. Like I haven't had that issue. The hybrids are better, and then wham, you get kind of whacked, and then it's like, yeah, idiot.
yeah, yeah. I hear a lot of people talk about defending yield when they're talking about herbicides and fungicides and all that stuff. I rarely hear people say that they're defending revenue by making sales,
Yeah.
So that's interesting too. Nate, I'm actually more interested in what makes you uncomfortable. You seem like a kind of guy that's very comfortable marketing. So I
Nate's
want to
the
hear what
Sun
makes you
Tzu of grain marketing. Yeah.
I want to hear what makes you uncomfortable. Like, um, I'll throw some topics out. Maybe like getting overly sold, right? Or, if you see opportunities 2 years ahead of time, are you comfortable locking in 70% of your crop then, or stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I this maybe is not the smartest thing, and I don't know if this works for everyone. I mean, I look at what I actually think I'm going to produce, and I tell myself I'm going to sell what I think I'm going to produce. Now, does that mean that, I mean, there's been times 2019 I got hailed out I mean,
Yeah.
I think they insurance adjusted it at 8 bushel, but we didn't harvest it, obviously. So sucked, prices were high and I had to, cancel out or buy out of contracts. But, you know, I got a decent sized insurance check. You just got to spend it, which is hard to do. Like you feel like that's your money. And so it's hard.
Mm.
I mean, okay, I've got a short feeder cattle contract right now. So I said I had some cow calves. And I mean, the highest cattle price I'd ever seen, on calves was 260, 270, so I have a hedge on it, 280 futures, and they're at 320 today.
New high today,
So
right?
I get a margin call often,
Yeah.
and it's hard to not like it sucks, but at the end of the day, I mean, I'm gonna sell calves for, if this continues, I'm gonna sell calves for more than they've ever sold. I mean, they're at all-time high. I mean, you got calves selling for $2,500, and if you don't have to go back that many years to where I was selling calves for $700.
Yeah.
So, and everyone looks at least it seems like everyone wants to blame like cow numbers are short, maybe, but honestly, as a producer, uh, we're doing we're doing our job. I mean, we're producing similar amounts of beef. It's just that consumption is good, which is great.
Well, so
So,
so
so
Nate,
I
I mean
don't
that
know if I
was
answered your question. I kind of danced around it, but there's things that make you uncomfortable. I think what I try to do is just remind myself of why I did it and remind myself that I made the decision for a good reason. And I've learned because I've freaked out before, and then you go make another bad decision on top of that one. Um, and I just learned that you just have to remember why you did it and like try to calm yourself. And it's not easy. Like I will wake up and think, my God, how much money have I got on my operating line to head to carry this cattle hedge that I wish I didn't have, but it'll all come out in the end. It's just hard when you're living it.
Yeah.
so Nate, the current cattle market. Rodney and I and Marcelo out of Argentina were talking a little bit about it last week, and we were talking with Kevin a couple weeks before that too, but not on the podcast. And so you were the one that called out to me a couple months ago, like, "Hey, Gabe, did you look at cattle lately?" And how blown out it is. And so, I mean, that's part of the reason, or that's the reason we thought it was a good idea to have you on now, just because, so Nate, how long you been raising cattle for? Like, must have been
Yeah, cow calf for, I don't know, 20 years
20.
probably.
Yeah. So Nate led building out the cattle risk management on the production side at Cargill, like that whole business. And so I think Nate's, we're getting a lot of gems out of Nate in terms of like farm, row crop risk management stuff. And Nate talked about been farmer for 40 years. Like, I haven't hit the perfect year yet. One of the fascinating things I think on the cattle side was those guys go through those cycles multiple times a year, right? So one of the hard parts of being a farmer is like, how do you learn those lessons? Like,
Mm.
how do you go through that? Because a lot of it's just experience, right? And so Nate does a great job of obviously behaving in a disciplined way. But I think part of what he's also touching on is Nate's been really wise about listening to other people and seeing other people make mistakes and integrating those lessons without having to learn them directly. And so that, but from a risk management or a, pricing perspective, like on the cattle side is interesting because those guys have been around for a while. They go through that cycle a couple times a year as opposed to just once. And so they learn faster, right? About like how,
Well, I don't know
making,
if they learn faster. They go through many more experiences. I mean, which is a great point, Gabe, because I mean, I would say that in the years of working with people, the livestock guys, um, probably pound for pound had a better feel for hedging and stuff just because it's more common. And like you said, in beef, for example, they might turn their yard 2.5 times. So it's like farming twice as long or 2.5 times as long. You just learn more because And I've made plenty of bad decisions, believe me. So you learn, but you hope you learn from them. So
So yeah, so like, and I think because of the nature of the way cow calf and cattle operations work, that mentality around a good sale is a good sale, like is even clearer because the timelines are shorter, right? It's easier to see, your depreciation, like, and all that kind of stuff. But so so that's like normal situation. So we we pulled up a chart 2 weeks ago. I haven't looked at what the weekly chart looks like now on that December cattle futures. I'll pull it up once Nate starts going again on it. But uh, so Nate, like, I guess so you hit a couple things, right? Like you're selling calves for 3 times the price it was a handful of years ago. Can you We talked about kind of the macro concern. So looking at corn in particular and recognizing, cattle and consumption of corn, right, as feed is a big part of obviously where demand is for corn in the U.S. And so when I think about it from a macro perspective, when Rodney's talking to his guys and trying to figure out, like, one of the questions that came up a month ago was like, well, how low can it go, right? Like, is it really going to go below 425? Well, yeah, it's the answer to that. Is it really going to go below $4? I mean, it certainly could. And when we think about like when I think about one of the big things that could drive that would be if, and I'll ask you to expand on it, but if what feels like a bubble in the cattle market is actually a bubble in the cattle market, and suddenly we see a big move away from, prices drop, and suddenly those operations that are, especially the newer ones, that are filled with folks who haven't gone through those cycles and haven't made the decisions and don't know how to manage that risk, what kind of impact that might have. So if I guess back up and say, it'd be great to hear from you as somebody who's in it, and certainly the guy that brought it up to me, like, what do you think about what you're seeing today? So if you talk a little bit about like how it looks today versus, maybe how it looked 2 or 3 years ago, or broadly historically, and what do you worry about, right? Like in that space, for I would say for your peers, whether or not it counts for you too as well.
well, livestock is a whole another a little bit different and obviously a lot of similarities, but you really have to dissect livestock because a cow calf guy is like a farmer. I mean, they're growing a crop once a year and selling the crop and that's that. Those guys right now are they're they're selling their crop. They got $8 corn per se. Like it's great. Like, I mean, they don't now when you transition to the feeder, so most people are not fully integrated where they're going to take where they're going to, raise, have that calf born on their farm and then take it to the process, to meat.
Yeah.
And so there's two people involved in that. So now, you're looking at the feed yards that numbers numbers are lower than they had been, so I don't know. I'm not an expert, but let's just say that there used to be 32 million head of calves, you know. Today maybe there's 26 million calves. Okay. So you have a feed yard who all over the board, there's different business models there, right? So you have a feed yard who's essentially a custom farmer, right? So they're getting paid to just feed the calf, like feed it out. Like they're getting paid to do that activity. And then you have the person who owns that calf from that they bought from the cow calf guy, and they're going to sell to the packer. Um, you know, in 8% interest market. I mean, they're trying to hedge a product that you can never, it very seldom can you buy the calf, buy all the feed, and hedge out a profit. So what you're trying to do is piece it together, so those guys have a lot of risk because if you go buy a calf and you pay $2,000 a head for it, hoping to get four, and then that calf gets you $2,000 because the market drops out of bed on live cattle, it's a big problem, you know.
Hmm.
And similar for the rancher, maybe, you know, and it is in the sense that if they go buy a bunch of new mama cows to have calves and they pay today's rate, which is 2 to 4 times what it was, okay? If that change, you know, if all of a sudden they go pay that and it's going to take them 5 calves to recoup their cost, and then, you know, the calf price drops out in 2 years, it hurts. And I mean, it happened to us in 2016 where unexpectedly you know, everyone thought this thing was going to last forever and it didn't, you know, and it cost some people their business because they went down. So for the guys that are just trying to go buy mama cows and get into the industry today, I mean, it might be, it might work. You know, I'd be, you talk about something that would make me nervous. It would make me really nervous because it's just, you know, there's a lot of things that go into it. And thing is with livestock, a little bit, maybe you have a ticking time bomb. I mean, you got to move them, you know. So supply wise, I think there's beef. I mean, maybe pounds of beef is the same, but consumption's really good. So I don't know. Apparently people in Boston are still buying $15 steaks. You
No, what are
know,
you talking about?
and part of it is
I get
like,
my organic hamburger cheaper than it costs you buying it from the packing plant. So don't.
well, I raised my own game, so that's
Oh,
not fair.
all right. When
But
you
yeah, I mean, look, I would say at least, and I'm not like I do not even want to proclaim to act like I know anything about the cattle market, because I'm, you know,
nobody believes you when you say that, Nate, but that's all right.
well, but I'm just saying, like we're selling $8. I mean, we've cattle prices have never been here. Like it's really great for the guy who owned their herd, and like they're buying new trailers. Like retailers that I have that are in livestock areas, they're selling stuff. I mean, cattle guy has money, you know, and I don't know as much about the other proteins, but you know, I look at the grocery store. I mean, you used to be able to buy chicken for $1 or $2. Now it's not. It's higher. You know, it's
Yeah.
$4. You know, it
3 to
seems
4.
like
Yeah.
so.
Well,
You know,
Nate, you
so I
called
guess
me
the question is,
complaining.
what's the consumer? You know, what's the consumer willing
Well, hold
to
on, Nate. You
pay?
called me complaining about the cost of hamburger from the Cargill plant, right? You drove up to the Cargill plant to get hamburger, and you were complaining to me about price. And the next day, I was in the Trader Joe's here and took a picture of prepackaged hamburger, and it was like $1 or $2 a pound cheaper than what you were paying from the packing plant. So I think there's that part of it. When Nate says to understand the cattle market, I mean I don't think anybody here understands why that price difference exists. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
That spread. But I guess I'll talk a little bit about the $8 corn analogy because I think when you say that there's a lot behind that when you say that. I think you were the one that pulled the number years ago. So not $8 when it got to what 7.97 3/4 was that was the high like in
09.
09, 08, and whenever that was, and we had hit it in middle of the season, right? I can't remember when exactly. It was like July or August. The like in the winter, I think Nate had gone digging through the system and saw, and Nate, maybe you remember the exact number, but I know it was more than 80% of the contracts that were delivered to Cargill in the fall when they got priced sub $4. And so we've probably talked about it before, but I think so. On one hand, we talked about how much better because of the reps they get, you know, in the cattle industry, those guys tend to be better at pricing and hedging and those types of things. That being said, it's hard for anybody when the market is so volatile like this and so high like this to pull the trigger, especially when you don't have historical references for it. And so one of the things that was probably the biggest learning for me is that in that, so even on this call, you heard Nate talk multiple times about how stressful $8 is to him. By the way, it's not just when on his price stuff, and I'm going to speak for as the farmer. One of the things I learned is for anybody, even if you're unpriced, $8 is super stressful because you're worried it's going to go to 10, which is like a crazy thing to worry about, right? Like that is one of the most irrational sentences you could ever say. But it's true. Like it's super stressful. And I think that's a piece that people often, especially if you're on the outside, like, and until I talk to so many people about it to better understand it, like it doesn't make sense, right? But when you're in the middle of it, when it's your livelihood, when it's basically an unprecedented situation, trying to make a decision and like think that that's a good decision in that scenario is really hard. And Nate also touched on that complexity. That's like it's not obviously growing a row crop has a bunch of different things that go into it as well, but you really do have three distinct moving sizable pieces to the value of the cattle you're raising. Whereas corn, it's just the futures pieces that heavy hitter, and then it's basis, and then it's am I doing you have a lot of smaller decisions, which can certainly be, as we touch on, really painful in years that look like you're probably doing it at a loss. But it's still each one of those is a lot smaller than those big three moving pieces on the cattle side. So I think that's not that you're dealing with a lot of cattle guys, Rodney, but I think when markets and not just corn, not just cattle, housing markets, equity markets, when they get hot like this, you see a lot of people jump in, and even if the overall valuation should be going up, what often happens is you dislocate the rate that it's going up at, right? The irrational. So if 5 years from now the right price for cattle should be 207, right, and we should have been traveling up that path to it. If it starts going faster, we start to overshoot it, right? And so that when we talk about bubbles, that's a lot of what we're talking about, right? It's an irrational pylon, and so that's it. That being said, I'm gonna just throw this up real quick. So if somebody's around,
I know you were hoping it would have broke by the time we had
I wasn't, sure, no, it's up, right? So we were talking here 2 weeks ago, and now it's up here. So, and like I said at the time, like I don't, I don't know, and like that's where some of the stress comes from, right? If we talk again in 2 weeks, it could be up here. But
to your point, Gabe, the volume, right, shows those people piling on. Is that
no? This
that might be a
is
function
more a
of time.
function of it starting to roll into being the primary hedging month.
Yeah.
Right. So those shorter time frames for those cattle contracts, like they change over more frequently.
Yeah.
So to put that in perspective, just rough numbers, but if you look at that chart, the 217, I mean, that's $3.35 in the meat, so the meat, just the meat, if there was no basis, nothing else. So if you go to the grocery store, just the meat, nobody else touched it. No transportation, no processing, nothing. No grocery store margin, nothing. It's $3.35. So if you could buy a steak for $3.35, you should buy it.
That's what Nate's trying to buy steak for $3.35 for 2026 right now.
Well, but I think it comes back to just thinking through it. And the interesting thing is, like, if you went and talked to the guy like me who has the cattle, like I sit here and I should just be ecstatic, right? Because, well, I got $8 corn and cattle, essentially, right? I got, $3, $4 cattle. And, they're worth 2 and 3 times what they were worth. But it's hard to feel good because, like, you're kind of like, oh my God, this is, well, I don't know. Maybe it's not enough. Maybe, there's a lot of things that go into this. And like, if you want to, like, cattle people shouldn't be stressed right now, but I bet you most of them are. Like, if you showed up on a farm and talked to a cattle producer, they would be stressed just because they'd be like, they're kind of in disarray. Like, oh my God, and they should just be happy, but it's not easy because if they hedge, they're probably not happy because they're looking at it saying, geez, look at all the money I left on the table.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would say, throw away 2012 because I think that's a different kind of stress when we had a rally. But '09 matches up really well with that, right? Nobody was concerned about a crop shortfall in '09. It was actually the opposite. We were buried in corn and we were throwing in new highs. And I remember the stress in the industry at that time. Like, I mean, that year taught me a lot about how to manage stress, how to manage money, how to manage margin calls. That's one of those pivotal years in my career. But yeah, dude, I totally see what you're saying. Where, high profitability, high prices, high stress, high
The
risk.
best thing to do is just go find somebody that, you just keep asking people till you find somebody who agrees with you, and then you feel better.
You feel that.
You don't like the guy who has a contradicting story. It's like, oh, I don't like Gabe. I don't like Gabe anymore. He doesn't believe what I believe, so I'm not gonna like him anymore. But it's so true. And I think to me, a lot of all this comes back to like, you know, find a way to be okay with yourself. Because I mean, that's really who you have to please, and so many times we're trying to please everyone else. And I think, as a farmer, I just try to please myself. And, it's hard. It really can be hard, but I think you just have to ask yourself, like, what's okay for me? And just remind yourself that I mean, you're not perfect. It don't hold yourself so accountable to a number that wasn't even attainable, and I always try to look at, well, what was the average for the year? And if I was close to that, then I could be okay, because to be in the upper echelon of any market it's really tough. It's almost impossible, I think.
Yeah.
Or it is
We
for me.
we've got a friend of ours, Jake, coming on the podcast in 2 weeks to talk literally about that, Nate. Like, so he's a his technical training is quantum physics, but he's been working on the data science side and the trading side for a long time. And so he's going to talk to us about like, how does he think about benchmarking stuff and what's a good approach there. And I think we often talk about the average as a good reference point because it is, but it's not one that feels good, even though like if you beat it, you should feel good.
Yeah.
Right. If you can beat the S&P 500 by 1% every year, like you're living on a private island, right? Like, so I think it's stuff like that. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. So, well, what do you think, Nate? But you're still, so here's the interesting thing. Would you be better off today if you sold your cow calf operation, like just unloaded it all?
Absolutely. Like, I've told myself over and over, I should just go sell them all. Like, I sold some old stock. Like, let's say that the expectancy is to have 8 or 10 calves, so I sold some that had 8 calves. And I mean, I got like 2 times of what they were when they were new. So it's like, oh, I bought this pickup for 50 and I got 100 for it, and it's wore out type of thing. So the reality is you should go sell it all. That's unlikely for lots of reasons. Like, you tell yourself you're going to face tax consequences. Like, I love my cows, like I know which ones will kill me when I'm trying to tag their calf. So like there's a physical, knowledge about, and there's a connection. And I think that does exist. And I mean, people say it exists with livestock, but I think it exists with crops too. I mean, as a farmer, there's a pride, and it's human nature. There's a pride in what you have and what and so it's hard to dispose of it, even though economically you should. Like, I should sell every cow I have, but I probably won't, in 2 years, 5 years, whatever from now, I'll look back and say, huh, I should have, but I didn't. So, the big question, I think, well, something that's really interesting here that also is going on, which hits a lot of pieces, is I was talking to just some people I had worked with in that industry, and one guy made the comment. So, well, just year over year, carcass weights are up 40 pounds.
Hmm.
Okay. And you take, so carcass weights are up 40 pounds year over year, but take over 10 years, carcass, or maybe it's more, I don't know the exact number, but I would say that a longer time person in the industry would say carcass weights are up 400 pounds. So it comes back to, if you want to look at one thing, sometimes you got to be careful, because if you just go look at cow numbers, I mean, that gets a lot of comment now. Like, people want to look at cow numbers and say, well, cow numbers are down. Okay, cow numbers are down, but if you're now 400 pounds more or 40 pounds more, what's the real influence of that? And diets have changed, so there's a lot that goes into that. So, um, people like Gabe used to eat 20-ounce ribeye bone-in steak, and today, how many consumers want that? I mean, it's consumer preferences have changed.
Still want it. I just, you know,
Yeah. But as we get older, and even you think about like households, what changed in the household? I mean, are they cooking at home, and what are they cook, how many households have steak night? I mean, instead they might say, you know what, I don't want to cook. Let's go out, and then what are they going to eat? It depends, and so I think there's a lot that goes into this. At least for me, it's pretty interesting because I'm really curious what the consumer choice is. The consumer demand is really good. And I guess my question is for you guys is like, you know, what will change people what does it take for people to eat less beef? So Gabe, what's
I
gonna
mean,
make you eat less beef?
anecdotally, I'll tell you, I had a buddy of mine just like 2 weeks ago. We were both telling the story separately. He went to the store and he was going to buy some steaks to grill out. And like the same day I went to the store and I was going to buy steaks to grill out. I don't go to the store. I never do. He apparently does. So I went to the store and was like, hey, I'm gonna get some steaks. That's what we wanted that night. And I looked at the prices. I was like, geez, I had no idea, right? We have quarter beef in the freezer that we eat, and that sunk cost doesn't matter. But now I'm like buying ribeyes, and I was like, oh, that's a lot of money. But like we decided we were gonna do this, so I buy them. My buddy's telling me the same story, and like he's not living paycheck to paycheck, right? He goes to the store and same intention, and he's like, absolutely not am I paying, whatever for a ribeye. And he turned it down. So I think we're close to that, like where we would make that decision. I talked to my wife. She said she absolutely would not have bought the steaks that I bought. She's the shopper in our house. So
I get that response to a lot of shit that I do, but from my wife, I would absolutely have not made that decision.
yeah,
We,
you
uh,
would buy it. You're saying you just buy
I probably would have bought them. I mean, well, because it's like you made a decision. It was like you're doing a thing, right?
it. Decision
Uh,
was already made. That's exactly
yeah.
right. I wasn't redeciding. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like we don't eat. So my wife makes an amazing bolognese. Like she learned how they did it in Italy, which is like anyway. So when she does that, and it's one of those like she's cooking it for 4 hours kind of thing. So that's probably like one of the bigger beef purchases because it's like a big hunk of beef goes in there as part of that. But like we don't eat steak. Like I don't think the kids have a lot of interest in that. We do a lot of chicken, um, and and then we do hamburgers sometimes. But like so we did hamburgers on the fourth, right? Like
Yeah.
but like it's kind of like a summer meal for us, not. And then
Yeah.
patty melts. That's the other, yeah. So we're either in hamburger or like a big roast that goes in the pot. Like those are the two big beef things we get. And she buys most of the beef from a local farm co-op here. So yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
I mean,
want to
it's
know what it is.
interesting because, like, you talk about a quarter of beef. Well, I mean, used to be a quarter of beef might cost you $500. That same quarter now might be, 250 pounds at say $6. I mean, if you're buying it, paying the processing and
Yeah,
whatever. I mean, you know, it's it's hard it's much easier to go spend $100 every week than it is to go spend 2,000
yeah,
all
that's right.
at once and put it in the freezer and then hope your freezer don't go bad. I mean, like
I
you're
mean, that's a
feeling like,
concern
oh my
now.
God, I gotta have some
The
kind
beef's
of
worth more than the freezer.
monitor on my freezer because if the freezer goes bad, I'm out like 10 grand. I mean, you want to buy
Yeah,
insurance on your freezer.
exactly. Right.
Didn't even think
But
Hey,
about
I mean,
that.
hey,
it is like, I mean, what we're in right now. I mean, it's a deal. Like, I mean, I'm watching people go out and buy these. The one thing I would say for cow calf guy is like, go sell your old cows and buy new. Because I did some of that this year. It's like I could sell an old cow for 3,000 and buy a new one for 4. So for $1,000, I could get a 8-year newer model. So that worked. But but I mean, it's like a farmer who, you don't have a tractor today, and now I got to go buy a new tractor for 500,000. Well, if I have one that's a few years old that I can sell for 400, don't feel so bad. But
right.
if I got to go buy the $500,000 tractor, that feel too good.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
Uh, Nate, I want to ask you, do you ever go long? Do you ever offset hedges that aren't, converted to cash?
Not me, not really. And not, if I do, it's a total spec deal. And I guess what I've told myself over and over as a farmer who owns an asset, like, why, I'm so long already, because it's like if corn goes up, even if I'm sold out, what banker's going to shut me down because I own land? So, like, okay, yep, I'm going belly up this year because I'm selling my crop for half price. But hey, by the way, this land over here, somebody's now willing to give me 20% more than they would a year ago. So I guess no, I don't, just because of that reason. And I'm not saying but that's my rule. Like, I
Sure.
just feel like I'm so long that I don't need to go long. Like, I'm long all the time. I mean, if you're really, bullish, just wait a little bit to sell the next year's stuff, I guess,
Yeah.
really. Because I mean, unless you're quitting farming, would me maybe be the only reason. Like, if this was the last, if I was able to retire, which I'm not for a long, unfortunately, for a long time. I told somebody if I could just stay working for another 10 years, but I'm not sure I can make that. So,
And how about options? Do you use much for options, or are you pretty much a straight hedger?
uh, I don't mind options. The I'm just not a big insurance guy, I guess. And I say that, which is really dumb to say because, I buy, crop insurance on an acre out here for me is $150 an acre that we can spend pretty easily. So yeah, I just haven't, but they're good. Like, I mean, I like them in the sense that I wish I had them on my cattle thing right now. Like, I wish I had bought the
Hmm.
But
can't think of the insurance program I
but
could buy to protect my cattle price versus doing futures because you know the amount of stress is so that's the thing. Like, I don't care who you are and how like calloused you think you are. I mean, that margin call sucks. like every time, I mean, when the guy calls, it's like you want to be mad at him, even though it's not his fault. Like he's literally doing his job, but it's still like you want to hate the guy. And his name's Dave Cook. So if you want to hate Dave Cook, you can hate him.
Dave Cook's
But
another
when his call
ex-Cardinal guy.
comes, it's like, oh shit, I know what he wants. I don't even want to talk to him.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's where the insurance products have a ton of value is you don't have to worry about that phone call. So like if you can't, if you, if if I couldn't like deal with it, and they're like right now, I wish I had an insurance product because it would be easier. Because like
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many times I've thought like, oh, I should puke this position.
Yeah. Right.
So that for me is yeah. So they I do like them, and for a segment of people, they should use them because it's hard to go raw.
Yeah.
So Nate on well, I gotta double check the date, but it was I think July 6th. Jim Magnuson texted me and asked me if I was bearish corn. Uh Kind of out of nowhere. Well, I say out of nowhere. He was probably listening to the podcast. I don't know. When was that the sixth run? Or no, maybe was it the third? Was the third? Was that Thursday, July 3rd?
Oh, right before.
Right before, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I said, yeah, I'm bearish corn. And then I looked at what the market did and it popped up, right? And so then I texted Rodney, I said, I hope you tell all you guys to put stops in. Like, so I know, like, I feel like the doom and gloom guy out here, but like, I want to be clear, the stops in because I want it to go up,
Yeah.
right? But, uh, so I'm curious, right? Like, you said guys did move on that price move and did take advantage of it. What
Yep.
about,
Yeah,
about
I
what?
mean, nobody felt good about it, man. I'm telling you, it wasn't like people were like hooting and hollering to sell
Sure.
430 corn or whatever. But yeah, guys, time's running out, right? I mean,
Yeah.
where is the risk premium going to come from at this point? That's part of the problem. So, yeah, had some takers on that. Wish it was way more. And I don't know. We'll see. Just continue to take risk off the table, I think.
Oh, I mean, overall, what percent do you think guys got done? Like 5, 10, 20?
So I'd say the guys working with me probably
Yeah.
are average 30 to 35% sold right now.
Okay.
Um,
Nate, what
it's
percent sold are you for this crop year?
Uh, for 25, you're saying this
For
fall?
2025 for this fall, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Corn is
He knows.
90,
Yeah.
maybe. Beans is maybe 30.
yeah.
Which is behind. I mean, normally I would be
Yeah, you are behind on them beans.
I'd be 90 and 90 or 90 and 70. I mean, I hate beans just because like you can have we have great looking beans right now. And like you can literally go out there and be like, what the hell? Where
Yeah.
are the beans at?
Yeah.
And then you could have really bad looking beans and go out there and be like, my God, I don't know where these beans are coming from. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, for me, I look at what I have been producing and I just try to like
Yeah.
sell real close to what I think I'm going to produce. And I mean, that's, I know that there's going to be years I mean, we get hail and wind in Nebraska. I know that's hard for you guys to believe, but I know there's going to be years. And the problem is for me, like, I pretty much can tell, like, this year I'm not going to get hail because I never get hailed out when the price goes down. I always get hailed out when the
I
price
didn't
goes
realize there was a correlation between corn
down.
prices and weather, but there we
It's
go.
like,
In Nebraska, specifically
yeah, it's like,
Wood River.
yeah, I'd love to sell, and honestly, that's like everyone's got that wishful thinking, like, God, I wish I could get a hailstorm and sell my, 462 corn instead of this shit bag $4 corn that they got to take because the market's been sinking. So,
Yeah. Hey, before we move on, I do want to defend myself a little bit. So I just started this business in April. Haven't seen the, other 70% of opportunities that Nate got to see here, but whatever.
I
Hey,
wasn't trying to pick on you, Rodney. Come on. Jeez.
yeah.
Well, but I think it's an interesting perspective because, I talk to a lot of ag people, and I mean, it's I do believe that it was tough for people I mean, like, to encourage most. I got lucky. Like, I mean, I'm not like, I think for anybody to sell a bunch would have been real. It's tough. It would have been really tough. I mean, situationally, it did not make sense. I mean, it really hasn't. And so, like, to defend the the lack of decisions right now, like, it'd be pretty easy to defend it. Like, you could build a pretty good story to say, wow, like, look, I was pretty sound in my decisions to not sell. Yeah.
I'm not questioning the rationalization, right? Like I think that's pretty cut and dry. But I strongly disagree with what you're saying in terms of you got lucky. You did what you always do. And when you say you
Correct.
got lucky, you're saying the market went down this year instead of up, and so it makes me look smarter than I am. Like, but what I do is I have a plan that I do every year, and it hits me singles, not home runs, and so I feel like a dummy when we're at $7, and I feel good about it in terms of the decisions I made when we're at 420. Like it's not, you're
Dude,
not
most of
lucky.
my
Yeah.
marketing decisions, it really just matters what the market does like 2 or 3 days after I make the decision.
Uh,
Because it's like after that I forget about it. So like
yeah.
as long as like I sell and then it goes down for a couple days, I feel great. I feel like really smart. The worst thing is when you sell and it goes up and you're like, God damn it. Why did I do that? And then
But
a month later, like you forgot about it. So it doesn't matter if it's a buck higher a month later, you forgot. Right until you deliver it and you're like, well shit, that sucks. Where's the
when
rest of the money?
when we used to sell, when I was on the trading desk, right, we would sell fairly large option positions into the market from time to time. Like the kind of, I mean, so there's no pit anymore, right? But like what used to be, like you'd see like reports on like so and so's doing whatever. So there'd be something to go out like say, oh, Cargill sold 10,000 options, and we knew that like that was us, right? Like we saw, so what it was always funny reading what the rationalization, like somebody explained, like because when we were doing it to hedge a position, right? We were taking risk off the table, right, and like changing the profile of the position,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, Cargill's short volatility, they think it's going whatever. But then the other thing that was always frustrating, and this was what reminded me of it, is Nate, like, so back then when it was the pit, like, so we'd sell right at selling the market, and they'd always mark the book in our face because it's the locals that settled the option prices. And so they didn't want the margin calls, and so they always settle it, a tick or two higher than where you got it off at. So that was inevitable. You'd always feel annoyed by that. Yeah, that was a long time ago. Um, well, Ronnie, anything else we want to touch on?
I don't think so. My sister gets grumpy when these podcasts go more than an hour and 15 minutes or so.
Ooh, well, then you got some editing to do today, man.
Yeah, she's gonna be talking to me.
Well, you know what is when Nate's talking, just have her put it on triple speed.
No way, Nate. Some huge words of wisdom today. I don't imagine that you love talking about your own operation and pounding your chest a little bit. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on and share some of those tidbits that you learned over the last 20 years or so.
Nate's one of my favorite impressions to do. Oh, Gabe, I don't know what's going on. Oh, God damn it, Gabe.
Don't overthink it. It's
Yeah.
it's not an easy business. That's the thing. Like everyone wants to farm. It sounds fun and easy, but it's not. I
How
mean,
many times do you say I don't want to farm?
like, but most people
I'd
do,
be
Gabe.
terrible.
Like people would love to just be able to go get in the tractor, but
Yeah.
that's not really what farming is anymore.
No.
So that's the easy part. It's
Yeah,
all
like,
the like decisions, and they're not easy decisions. And there's like so many things that influence them that you don't even know about. Like you get whacked all the time with stuff that's like, what the heck, where'd this come from? Take COVID. I mean, who knew? Nitrogen fertilizer prices this year, like out of nowhere, went up like $200-300 a ton, and it's like, ouch, that's 40, in some cases, 40 to 70 bucks an acre.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thanks guys for having
Yeah.
me.
Thank you, Nate. Good to see you, Gabe. Have a good
Watch
week.
how fast I'm going to stop the recording this time.
All right.